thinking about Steve and Dan out there murdering people. I'm like, holy shit, Valhalla.
Hey, out here in West Virginia, you know, I was saying this on Twitter earlier too. West Virginia is more like this area in Indiana than not. Because one point, dude, everybody's trying to make the point of the guns and the knives. Dude, that's not fucking weird in this area at all. Like,
that is like, it would be weird for people not to have guns and knives in rural Indiana.
Absolutely.
Everyone is hunters. Everyone are gun owners. Like, everyone. That is what you do in Indiana. You hunt, you fish.
Dude, I'm not a hunter. I could literally turn around in the room I'm in right now and pull out numerous weapons. Exactly. Like, it's just the way and they're not even mine. They're my uncles. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way life is in this type of, you know, area. Quite frankly, but yeah, I'll see everybody just freaking out. The guns. There's so many guns.
Dude, like, and like, oh. Yeah, they're practicing like this rituals and like this, you know, like a rural area. I'm like, yes, it's exactly where they do it. You want big open forests. You don't want people around. You want nature. You're not doing this shit in the middle of Chicago, bro. You're doing this thing. You're doing it where you want nature. You want trees, especially for this. Like, all of that I rejected, you know, and it becomes like a thing where there's two different things that you look about with this filing. All right. There's the Odinism side of it, right? So like that kind of just crazy portion of it that just gets your mind racing. But there's also law in there, you know, and it's a combination of both things. And, you know, like my feeling as a defense attorney is that I feel that I think that they may have hurt themselves, the defense, a little bit in terms of the strength of that Frank's hearing motion by burying it in
100 pages.
This thing where it's going to piss the judge off because of what they disclose, and they filed it unsealed. You know, it's like, I'm concerned that because they did that Gull may deny the motion if she's like on the fence. I was saying that on her stream last night, which people probably couldn't hear because it was choppy, but you know, I mean, you have to know, like, the judge is going to be irritated by that filing, and not so much of the length or that, you know, the fact that they brought up that they think that it's ritualistic, but just the level of detail that they went into on that, I think is going to irritate the judge to the point where we've got a very valid Frank's motion hearing that's buried in there where they've come with receipts, man, you know, and I worry that, you know, because of the way, and I went through it on our stream last night, but the way a Frank's hearing works, Steve, is that you've got, you know, you're saying, look, this guy lied. We've got the receipts here. I'm going to put the report from the police that took her statement. This is what they wrote. This is what they're saying she said. Okay. And now here I'm going to put what Tony Liggett said in front of the judge in order to get the warrant. And this is different than this. He lied. Right. You know, it's reckless. It's with knowledge, you know, and like Allison always likes to make the point that it's not just the lies, but it's the omissions of things that they knew, like not including any of that stuff that they knew in terms of initially going in, and whether or not they actually went to Purdue, we'll never know unless this professor shows up.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, they thought enough of it to make a police report stating that they went to Purdue and stating that whoever this person was that they spoke to poo-pooed it as
that
being
it wasn't
ritualistic.
Yeah.
You know, so
which is insane. Like
it's insane, man.
Dude,
it's insane.
Yeah, maybe I
but you know, I mean, ultimately, if they pull all those lies out, Steve, she can still find that there's enough probable cause that the thing, you know, it survives it. So that's where I'm talking about. If she's super irritated and she's on the fence, it's within her discretion, you know, to say, yeah, well, okay, I'm going to pull out the lies that Liggett made. I'm going to pull out the two witnesses' statements that he completely, you know, corrupted and changed in terms of what they said and what they observed. And I'm going to look at it, and I'm afraid that she's going to say, well, I still think there's enough probable cause, so I'm denying the motion to suppress, which is, you know, exactly what could happen. And we'll see. You know, I mean, I hope Judge Gull is of the mindset that she only cares about following the law because it's her job.
Yeah.
and she doesn't get wrapped up in, you know, being upset. I mean, I've had no indication that she's nothing but an excellent judge from anything that she. I mean, I disagreed with her for not moving him the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and now that they've fleshed out what was going on with those guards, which I'm sure we're going to get to tonight.
That's something I definitely want to talk about.
Yeah.
In these memos, it sounds to me like they know that these dudes have cameras, that they're pointing a camera at them, right? I mean, if you were actually in that position, you're seeing this, or I guess my question is, are you going to say something right then and there? Or are you going to go back and try to get a strategy to try to figure out what to do? Because once you let that out, they're going to know, and then they're possibly going to make his life even worse.
Well, I was at the hearing in June when this came up. Like, this is not the first I've heard of it. Like, the first time that I heard about the camera and them recording him was at that hearing in June where they were. So, you know, I drive to Delphi. It's about 2.5 hour drive from me.
I remember
so
that.
I went down there, and, you know, I get up at the crack. I go stand in line at the courthouse so that I make sure that I get in, because I'm like, I'm watching this fucking thing, dude. I'm like, y'all need me in that courtroom, so you know you're getting just facts when I come out, because you can't live tweet in there. The judges, like, they're crazy about it.
Yeah.
Like, if they even see your phone, they'll take it and smash it with a hammer.
It's over.
So it's like, yeah, they're crazy about it. Like, I have to go hide in the bathroom to go, like, sneak a tweet out. Now they know. Now they know if they're watching.
They're going to be watching
so,
now. He's leaving. He's going to the bathroom.
There he is. Get him. So, like, at that hearing, which was supposed to be an entirely different hearing at that time, right? It was supposed to be something else. It wasn't supposed to be this hearing to get him moved out of a penitentiary. And just so people understand, pretrial detainees, meaning people that have not gone to trial yet, do not sit in prison and await trial. They typically sit in the county jail.
That's right. That's fucking weird.
That is correct. That is correct. So he is sitting in the worst of the worst in Indiana, the Westville Penitentiary. And, you know, so the defense had filed this pleading saying, look, he was being treated like a prisoner of war, you know, that he was sleeping on concrete floor. They weren't feeding him. They were making him wear the same filthy clothes. He wasn't allowed to take showers. They weren't allowing him to contact anybody. And that every time that they were coming to have attorney-client meetings, which are supposed to be in private, without ears listening from the state,
these motherfuckers are lurking.
That somebody was standing there with a camcorder. So now at that time in June, they didn't bring any of this shit up. They brought up the fact that what they were doing, because they didn't know. They just thought it was a couple of guards just standing there taping the guy. You know, but and like if Alice and I are going to talk to our client and we're sitting there and there's like when we used to go talk to Garcia, they'd put us in a little enclosed room. Like, they'd take him from his cell, they'd bring him, they'd sit him, he's all shackled, feet and legs. They'd sit him down, and then we'd have to say, hey, we're going to need you to close that door and take a few steps away. Well, we can't have you listening to what we're saying. I mean, we're trying to prepare for trial. I'm going to assume that you would leak shit to the state. You can't hear what we're saying to our client. It's privileged communication. Go away.
Yeah.
You know, so when Rosie, he pronounces it Rosie, but it should be Rosie. But but when Rosie's down there and he's with his client and he sees these guys with this camcorder, like, standing on the other side of the window, he's not going to say anything of substance to his client, and vice versa. He's going to say, Richard, I'm sorry, but we're not in a position where we can talk about the case at all right now because they're filming it. So at that point, we don't know anything about the, like, Odinism wasn't even, like, thought of at that point. And we know now, like, when this memo comes out, we know now why that happened, because he didn't know yet. He didn't get this discovery. He didn't get the 85 Odin report, you know, until like September.
It was like September 8th or something.
Yeah, dude.
It's
like so then it starts to make, he's like, I can only imagine what he's like when he's going through this shit. And then he's like, oh my God. He's like, look, so they, you know, and then he probably, because he had probably noticed the patches on these two guards who were like constantly shadowing Alan, like during the visits, and probably didn't think much of it.
See, I think that's crazy. Like, not thinking.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Like, you don't see people putting their own patches on government uniforms ever.
Like, if I'm getting pulled over and I'm seeing the cop with a weird cult whatever type symbol, I'm immediately going to be like, what the fuck? Like,
right.
I don't know if I'm talking to anybody because I'll probably instantly start having the conspiracy brain of everyone's out to get me, but
exactly, man. So that
shit's scary, though.
You know, that's sticking in the back of his mind, right? Like, during these visits, he's thinking of these two guards. And then when he opens this report and is like, Odin, why is that ringing a bell? And then it dawns on him. He's like, holy shit. He's like, and he's going to the little guy that he was bringing, who I think is in, like, he's in college, but he, like, the kid that he kept bringing who testified at that hearing in June. He's like, hey, get in here. Do you remember those patches those guards had on them? And that kid was like, I bet he was like, yeah, I remember them. It was like bizarre. It said, in Odin we trust. In Odin we, you know what I mean? He makes this connection, and he's like, his mind is exploding.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, it's all coming together. Dude. You know, so like that's how that shit kind of happens when you get discovery, and they're peppering the massive amounts of discovery, putting these reports all over the place, you know, because there's no rhyme or reason. Like,
and there's so much. They're looking back to the very beginning, which in the very beginning is the only time they were even kind of talking about occultist type stuff or Odinism type stuff. That disappears, and they just 5 years later you have a new guy, and now they're all trying to dig through this shit, and now they're like, wait,
dude.